and I'm the founder of the Intentional Parents Academy. The Intentional Parents Academy is an academy where you learn to be a parent. I like to say that a lot. And if you can see me, you can hear me, do let me know that you can see me and that you can hear me. Let me quickly make sure that we're logged on to all of the other platforms, and then we can go on. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And welcome to the cathedral. Like we often say, this is our cathedral. Service every Tuesday at 2 p.m. So we are live. If you're streaming, wherever it is that you're streaming live from, let me see your comment right in the comment section, telling me where you are streaming live from, and telling me if this is your first time. You can just put a hashtag and say first time streaming live on this platform. You are welcome. In this month, we've been discussing sex conversation, everything that you need to know, all right? Everything you need to know about sex conversation. And today, we're looking at why sex conversation must be age appropriate. Tomolola, I see you. Senior Yada, I see you guys. So invite your friends, your family. It's going to be a hot class today. All right, thank you for joining me again and again. Let's go straight to the conversation of the day. Make sure that you have joined, you have shared with your family and your friends. Okay? Please tell us where you are streaming live from. In a few minutes, we are going to be, we have 30 people streaming live, so let's go. So let us just broach this topic straight away. I know that it is a big deal. Sex conversation is a big deal today, all right? A lot of parents have issues with sex conversation. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to start. They don't know what to say. And those of you that even know what to say are afraid. Is it really age appropriate? All right? If this is your first time, put a hashtag and say first time joining you in live. And remember to share this link to every of the stream in your family and your friends. All right? So one of the things that we are going to be doing at our upcoming event challenge called Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro is that we are going to be sharing with you the overview of the goals that you seek to accomplish, and different strategies and tips that you can also be using to accomplish these goals as regards sex conversations. All right? Sex conversation is a big deal. And we want you to understand that if you're not having this conversation, someone else, somewhere, will have this conversation for you. Okay? And sex conversation, one of the reasons why your sex conversation must be age appropriate is one, who is our scribe today? Who is going to be writing for us today? Who is our scribe? All right? So let's move. If you're ready, just let's move and let's roll. And I hope you have shared with your family and your friends. Number one, sex conversation must be done honestly, knowledgeably, and structurally. Because sex conversation that works, effective sex conversation must be honest, it must be knowledgeable, and it must be structural. That is one of the reasons why you must have it in the age-appropriate way. When you're structuring your conversation, you are going to realize that it is supposed to be said in a certain way. Now, whenever we tell parents, you need to have sex conversation with your children and all of that, you hear parents actually get worried. The things I'm about to say, wouldn't that be a lot? Wouldn't that be too much for my 2-year-old? And by the way, if you're asking me when sex conversations should start, it starts as soon as you have a child. I've said this over and again. The moment you have a child, you start sex conversation. So sex conversation, thank you, our scribe from Facebook. Sex conversation must be done honestly, it must be done knowledgeably, and it must be structured. Now, these days, there's no one, aspect. You can't just say one thing and that solves your sex conversation problem. It's almost impossible. Now, many of us learned the truth about our bodies when we were older. Some of us learned when we were earlier, and we never really learned it from our parents. Now, your sex conversation, many of the times, many parents consist of buying books. I've seen that in this age, one of the things parents are doing today is just buying books and dumping on their children. Unfortunately, that is not enough. Now, most parents understand that book in a paper bag, it doesn't count as sex conversation anymore. So, but we're often confused. What is the right time? What is the right thing? All right? Here is the harsh truth. One talk is not enough. So that's why structure is required. Now, in the academy, part of what we have helped our parents do is to structure how they are having this conversation, which is part of what we want to also bring to you as sex educate your child like a pro. So even if it's one, you can't adequately arm your children with information with a one-off careless talk. Oh, do not allow anybody touch your private part. That is not sex conversation. Our children need conversations about their bodies, about their sexuality, about the normalcy of life, about sex. All right? And here is the reason. All right, before we break it down, here are the reasons why you must share sex conversations, have it honestly, knowledgeably, and structurally. Number one, children learn best from repeated exposure to a subject. Children learn best from a repeated exposure to a subject. So I usually say that what makes someone learn is when you make an impression. And you cannot make an impression without repetition. So whenever people come to me and say, oh, I've been talking, you cannot. A child doesn't learn without making an impression. And for you to have made an impression, there has to be repetition. So your children can only learn via repetition. So they remember basics that you said after one conversation. No, they may not remember. It doesn't mean that they've not processed the big picture. So that's why repeated exposure to the subject is important. And if you start this exposure as early as possible, there's something we call the cumulative time factor. The cumulative time factor begins to help your child to be able to internalize some of those things that we're talking about. Now, imagine your child learning a tough new mathematics concept in school, and then they never discuss it again. That's absurd. So why do we think that your child can grasp a complicated subject like emotion, sex, and all of the other things that are linked to sexuality just like that? Number two, you need to practice talking about sex without getting embarrassed. There's a practice to it. Now, you cannot practice talking about sex. Let me say this. You cannot practice talking about sex except you are armed with knowledge. Except you are armed with knowledge. That's why I said it has to be shared honestly, knowledgeably, and structurally. So it is the arming of knowledge that actually gives you the confidence to say to yourself, I know what I'm doing. And that's where you now, move. That's where you get the confidence to move. And that's where you get the confidence not to be embarrassed. I see quite a number of parents, talk about vagina, talk about penis. As I'm saying it, so many of you are cringing. Oh yeah, all right. Can you explain the difference between gender confusion, gender neutrality, homosexuality, heterosexuality without stumbling on your words? If you can't, then you need knowledge. If you talk to your toddler about their genitals while they are taking their bath and all of that, and you need to understand losing the cringe factor. That way, when it's time for tougher conversations, you now have laid a solid foundation. The reason why you need to start this conversation early is so that you can actually lay a foundation for having these conversations. It's very important. So let's go quickly. Number 3, talking about consent throughout your child's life lays a foundation for a healthy relationship later. Now, it is from this that you begin to now lay the foundation. Remember, we are still talking about point 1, why sex education must be age appropriate. And we said point 1 is sex conversation must be had honestly, knowledgeably, and structurally. Do you know that when you are not confident about what you're seeing, your children can actually pick it up? So this is where the foundation is laid. So for those of you who are asking me, should I have started sex education? My child is just 1 month. You should have started the day the child was born. So it's important that you actually explain things, understand where you should start and how. I wrote in one of my books, where I was explaining how you can start from age 0 to 4. And we're also going to put that in the guide that we're giving out to parents as Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro challenge. If you haven't heard this challenge and you've been listening to me, there's a problem. You should have registered for that challenge now. We have 1,300 or I think so parents already in that challenge registered to participate. You have an offer to do 2K now, which ends in a few days on the 1st of July. And if you miss it, you pay 15K for it. And some of those things that I'm teaching you, 1 hour isn't going to be enough for me to really explain them to you. Now, from 0 to 4, some of the things that you need to begin to talk about is that you start affirming your newborn baby as a person. Affirmation is actually a sex conversation. It is how to use it, because these messages, your infant absorb moment by moment early in their life. It sets the stage for healthy identity. Gender identification, gender confusion, if you need to sort it out, it starts from day 1. It's not when your child is already 10. If you wait until your child is already 10, you're going to be doing fire brigade approach. Ask the parents who started at 10. Then when they become verbally aware, you now become more intentional with your process. And before they become verbally aware, you have actually been able to arm yourself with the knowledge. So a few hours ago, I was just in an event. I'm just coming from an event where one of the coaches, David Folami, was doing a drug symposium. And I happened to have an experience, a very, bad experience about not having knowledge. That young man was one of the young men that I have known, and I have given money to buy drugs, when he was doing drugs. I shared it today at that event, and everybody was looking at me, and I said to them, one of the reasons why I gave him money is because I didn't know. If I knew what to do differently, I would have been able to help him. See, ignorance is not an excuse. And yet, I made that mistake. This is me, that is very knowledge forward. And on that day, the very first time he told me, he said to me, Coach Wendy, if you knew about drugs and its complications, you wouldn't have given me that money. You would have known that I was on drugs, because the telltale signs were loud. Now, I'm sharing this story because the knowledge gap that you have, you can't really give what you don't have. I couldn't give what I didn't have. You are only able to help your children according to the level of your knowledge. I was only able to help that young man according to the level of the knowledge that I had. The same thing with sex conversation. And it will also interest you to note that drug conversation is part of sex conversation. I'm bringing David to teach at the Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, the module on how you can start having strong conversation with your children. I don't have expertise on it, but I have recognized that is a huge part of sex conversation, and we need to start having it. And then for your toddler, you need to begin to develop, better communication skills regarding their body. Build healthy connections. Build a media plan. Part of what you must own, you must get when you get into the academy, at the TIP Academy, is a media plan. You can't parent without these structures. Remember that I said that sex conversation must be had honestly, must be had knowledgeably, and must be had structurally. And under that, we're showing you what that means. Children learn more from what we do than what we say. It is also very key with this conversation. If you start this conversation with dishonesty, like telling your 6-year-old that babies come you come from your mouth, you have already eroded the trust process. Let me say this: trust is the highest currency in sex conversation. Once you have sent your children the message that you're untrustworthy or that you're too uncomfortable to be a source of information about sex, they are less likely to choose you as their primary source of information in the future. Let me say that again if it didn't sink. If you have sent your child, even a 2-year-old, the message that you are not trustworthy or that you are uncomfortable to be a source of information about sex, they are less likely to choose you as their primary source of information in the future. You need to prove to them early on time that you are the one that can be trusted on tough subjects like this. So if you have already told them a fable, come and learn. You will come and learn, you will apologize to them, and then you will tell them the truth. Let them understand that you are open to honestly have this conversation. I don't think anybody listening to me today shouldn't be able to afford to be at Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. That money you want to use and buy shawarma, come and save the life of your child with it. I can tell you for free that this information you are going to get at Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, you can't get it if you pay 100K. I can tell you that. And none of the coaches who will be teaching there, you can't pay them 150K for per hour. So you need to talk about sex, that's the next point, more often. It means that you need to create more opportunities to talk to your children about sex, to talk about your family values. And let me also say this, if you do not have a family values where you are anchoring this conversation from, you haven't started sex conversation. So some parents see, we're looking at the hypersexualized culture. You're looking at the hypersexualized and you see it as a way to avoid this conversation. It is a mistake. It is a mistake. For all the images a person believes to be negative, they have the opportunity to counter it with 1 or 2 messages that they believe to be positive. So what positive conversation are you having with your child? That's the question. So let's move on. Number 2, age will determine how you answer questions. So sex conversation isn't about the mechanisms of sex. I have said that before. There's gender affirmation, there's gender identification. There are different aspects of this conversation. So age will determine how you answer questions. So, for example, age-appropriate conversation would mean that you're not going to tell your 3-year-old everything about, how attraction happens and how emotions happen and all of that. Should they know about it? Yes. But the question will be, at what level? And that's what you're doing. That's where the knowledge now comes in. Yes, we all know that we should start sex conversation at birth. The question is how. Number 3, why must you consider age-appropriate information? Because of different developmental stages. For toddlers, the developmental stage is not experimental. For preteens, it's not as experimental. But the moment your child gets to age of 18, they begin to experiment a lot. So your conversation will need to move. See, I've said over and again that fear is an inappropriate language of instruction. Stop selling fear. When you're having sex conversation and you begin to sell fear, you make a mess of the process. Who is enjoying this conversation? If you are, let me see you share your favorite emojis, and let me see you say that you have invited a friend or 2. And if you have tagged someone on this conversation, let me see you say so. This conversation is so valid. We need to have it. Let me see you share. I can see, have you shared this link with your family and your friends? And if this is worth your time, let me see you say that you have shared this conversation and share your best and your favorite emojis. Share with your family and your friends. Tag a friend. If you're watching us on YouTube, copy the link and share to your family and friends. Let them join us. All right. This conversation has become so important that we can no longer just sit back and just decide, oh, it's just about me. While I was talking at that event today, I said to the parents who were listening to me, I said, all of you are here in a public school speaking to these children, and we're saying, oh, we need to do the work. We need to raise money to help the children who are already doing drugs. You can say, oh, these are not my children. You can say, oh, it's not my business. My children are well behaved. They are perfect. But I tell you for free, if you do not help the other child that is there, the environment your child will find themselves will determine what happens to your child. So sharing this information is not just about, oh, they want to. No, it's for you. It's for the good of you and your children. Part of why I do what I do is it's not just because of you. It is because I know that my children are going to meet your children where they are for every point in time. So every time I am literally disturbed, I wake up every day thinking, what kind of environment will my children have to face every day? So if your neighbor does not know what is happening, it's going to be a mess. And I have seen people over and again who have told me that if their parents showed them more. I was in a forum where people were sharing how they got into pornography, and one person said, I wish my parents had monitored me more. Now you know what? The parents didn't know. The parents didn't know. If they know better, they will do better. Today, David's mom was sharing at that forum, and he said in the public forum, my son was a good child. I had raised him well. He came back to me with this same information, telling me, I think I must be addicted and all of that to drugs and shared all of the consequences. She said, because I was ignorant, I couldn't help him. And this guy went into all of the mess, 7 years, living in the Bronx and all of that. And she said something. She said, that shouldn't have happened. Only if I had the message, the knowledge. So it's okay for you to get the knowledge, but it doesn't end there. If you're not able to send this message out there, then we're going to be stuck where we are. They will make a mess of your children. So the earlier you get it, the better. The earlier you get why we are screaming every day, the better for every single one of us. So this is a campaign for every single child out there. And imagine if I knew better, I would have helped him as well, but I didn't. So imagine how knowledge gap can actually destroy a child just because you didn't know. Let's move forward quickly, all right? I said that age, different developmental ages. Now your teenagers are very experimental, and there is raging hormones, and they also want freedom. If you share this conversation with fear, you lose them. At that level, the way you speak changes. If you threaten, you lose them, because teenagers are wired to try whatever it is that you're saying to them. They are wired. That's how they are wired. Okay? Somebody said, Jumia said, this is the best use of my time. Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you're getting value. All right? So teenagers are wired to be that way. And if teenagers are wired to be that way, that means your conversation will need to change. And you need to have it from the place of knowledge, which is why, we're giving you an opportunity to actually come and learn. And that's why we're, talking about the sex educate your child like a pro. All right? The sex educate your child like a pro is a challenge. For only just 2,000 naira, you will be able to get all of the things that you need for that challenge. Now, so the question is, if you know better, you will do better. I've always known that. If we know better, we will do better. So anytime I'm told, or anytime, I want to blame, our parents for not teaching what they're supposed to teach and all of that, the truth of the matter is they didn't know any better. And, David's mom said that today, and it broke my heart. All right? They didn't know any better. If they knew better, some of the things that we have gone through, all right, won't have gone through it. Some of the mistakes that we made, we wouldn't have made those mistakes, because those mistakes were avoidable. And I usually say that lack of parenting knowledge would eventually create a scar on both you and your child. And some of those scars, can actually remain for life. they can actually remain for life. So, and all you need sometimes is just something small to be able to learn. And yet we're not learning these things. All right? So one of the reasons why you need to also have this sex conversation in an age-appropriate way is level of understanding. Level of understanding. Why do we say level of understanding? Because the topics, by the way, if you want to be part of Sex Educate Your Child like a pro, you're going to see the details on my screen, and you can copy that, screenshot it, and make payment as we're going on. Remember that this offer for 2,000 Naira ends in 3 days, 2 days or so, in less than 36 hours. All right? You get access to much more than, all right, you can imagine. Now, this conversation is about sexual intercourse, reproduction, puberty, menstruation. It's what we call the 10 models of sex conversations, dating and marriage. The parents in the inner circle will tell you what we talk about dating and marriage. The inner circle is a program that runs yearly in the academy. All right, we have a dating and marriage plan. Okay, it's part of sex conversation, sexuality orientation, gender identification and confusion, the LGBTQ narrative. See, if your conversation today is not about the 2X LGBTQIA, it's no longer LGBTQ. When I wrote my book, Walking Your Child Through Puberty, it was still LGBTQ. Now the narrative has expanded. One of the fewest conversation on earth today is parenting, because there are a lot of things coming up every day. Friendship is also one of the things that we're talking about. I hear people say to their children, "Oh, for you not to be pressured, you don't need to have friends. You don't need to have friends." You actually kill the conversation when you come from that angle. It's a conversation that you're sharing stemming from lack of knowledge, because social connection, belonging, is a human need. And for teenagers, belonging is even more important than food. That's why peer pressure is a thing. So you can't teach a teenager to stand on your own, stand alone. You can be alone. It doesn't matter. We had a conversation in the inner circle on this yesterday night in our level 3. Interesting conversation. If you're not in a community that where you're learning in these times, you're doing yourself really. So it's no longer a time where we're saying, "Oh, please, oh, come and attend course, oh, come and read, come and belong to a community." It's now compulsory. That's the truth for you to be effective on this journey. All right. And things like porn conversations, things like tech conversation, things like abstinence, contraceptives. I remember when I started having contraceptive conversations with the twins. My children are 12. Because one of those days, my 10-year-old came home and hit me with the question, "What are contraceptives?" If you don't teach, your children will learn from friends, they will learn from books, they will learn from the internet, and they will learn from other adults in their lives. One of the best gifts you can give your children is the ability for them to learn sex conversations from you. One of the best gifts you can give your children, someone help me write that, is the ability to learn sex education from you first. Is one of the best gifts. Thank you, Greatness. Greatness said belonging is so crucial for teenagers. I've been working with them for over 7 years. Yes, it's an important conversation. So when you come from the angle, so we are creating a narrative that is wrong. That's why our children are struggling. You tell them things like, "Oh, stay on your own, you must not follow those people." Must you follow them? It's a need. They must. They must form cliques. They must be in circles. And the question will be, what is the right thing to teach? Just like the way we are teaching that sex education is don't allow anybody to touch your private part. Pedophiles are cashed in on it. Because that conversation is wrong in itself. Because every single part of your child's body is private to them. Every single part of the body is private to them. Private, completely private to them. So don't kid yourself. You need to understand that the conversation is deeper than all of the things that you can see. Thank you, Jane. One of the best gifts you can give your children is for them to learn sex, conversation, and education from you. That's one of the best gifts. And the next best gift that you give your children is you learning. Learning. When I heard that woman, David's mother, share some stuff today, I was in tears. And she said, my child didn't need to go through all of this, only if I knew better. You don't want to be in a place where you regret the conversations that you should have had now. I usually say that if you don't pay now, you pay later. Either way, you do the time. You do the time. There's no vacuum. Life involves vacuum, all right? There's no parenting vacuum, okay? Abstinence, STDs. If you're not teaching your children about STDs, you're not teaching your children about contraceptives, you're not teaching them about sexual intercourse, you are joking. You're not teaching them about tech. You're not teaching them about media. You're not teaching them about porn. Coach Ebuka is going to be taking the porn session in the Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. The next best thing is you getting knowledge, more knowledge. Equipping yourself is one of the greatest gifts you can give your child. At all costs, equip yourself. If you need to borrow to equip yourself, trust me, at all costs. I was having a private conversation with David's mom. She said, if I had even had to borrow to learn these things, it would have saved me millions of naira that went down the drain on drugs and rehabilitation as well. Very important. Now, I've seen that many parents are afraid. Many parents are afraid to have this conversation. What are your fears? Number one, all right? What are your fears? How do you go about the conversation? You start from now. Before you start this conversation, you need to know what you're saying. Don't go and just say, I see a lot of parents, when they finish listening to me, they say, I called my children. I told them, what do you know about sex? You must not have sex. It makes me laugh. Don't broach this conversation with half education. Half education in sex conversation is worse than no education at all. It's less than no education at all. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you do it, you will crash. So you need to equip yourself. You are afraid because you don't have the prerequisite knowledge. That's why you're afraid. I used to be very afraid about drug abuse and all of that. But you know what? I started to equip myself on that conversation. And now I can comfortably have that conversation. I was afraid because I didn't know what to say. If you don't know what you say, you cannot broach this conversation. You can't. Where you need to start from. And you need to begin to work it out. At Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, time won't permit me to share how to start age appropriate. I'm going to be giving out a guide. I created a 30-day guide for you to be able to have this conversation guided, structured, and also I'm going to give it free to the people that come from Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. But after that, it's going to be sold. All right? You're getting it free. Okay? But that is only free for those who, the first 1,000. I think this first 1,000 is already passed. So I decided that we're going to leave it on. So the people who are able to also make payment today will also gain access to that. So what I have done with that guide is to share with you sex conversations, age-appropriate guide, how you can actually do it. And also the goal. The goal. So the first thing is for you to equip yourself. You're asking me how to equip yourself. See this screen. Pay for Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. There is no one class. There is no one seminar. See, jumping from one free class to another won't help you. Trust me. I know what I'm saying. They are not created to help you structurally. They are created to build awareness. They are curated to build awareness. That's what free classes are curated to do. So if you want to really do the work, you actually want to come and get a system. You need to get into a system that helps you to have this conversation. There is a right way to have it. All right? You don't expect us to all come and, it takes a lot. Okay? So the awareness is what we're creating for you. The things that you're doing wrong and what you need to do right. Yes, you might be able to get tips and hacks and all of that, but parenting is not about tips and hacks. Parenting is a process that you commit to. It's beyond the tip here, the hack here, the thing I know there, the thing I don't know there. It's beyond that. So if you've ever listened to me, even if you've listened to me for 2 years, and you've listened to me on these free Tuesday sessions, you haven't started. Trust me, you can tell the parent, you can ask the parents in the inner circle. when they get into the inner circle, they realize that this is just a joke. This is just a tip of the iceberg. Just come and learn. All right. Number 2, your fear is from the clash of culture. Now, this is also one of the things that knowledge dispels. The moment you understand that, most of this conversation, all right, you need to broach it from the place of knowledge, then you will know how to manage and put these things in perspective. I say that in the school of sex conversation, the curriculum is you. In the school of sex conversation, the curriculum is you. The curriculum is you. If you are not the curriculum, it's already a failed curriculum. All right? You can fail at parenting, really. You can. It's not, you see all those things that people tell you, oh, there's nobody that is doing it right. I call it the system, the error of thinking that failure is something you should glory in. Oh, nobody is doing it right. All of us are just managing and all of. No, not all of us. There are parents who are putting in maximum, who are going to have parenting advantage. Their children are going to have parenting advantage over your children because they know. That's what the parenting advantage is about. Oh, by the way, the theme of the conference for 2022 TIP conference is a free conference. It's called the parenting advantage. We're going to be sharing with you different aspects why parenting advantage is a thing. You want to be there? It's free, all right? We're going to be announcing soon. And then there's also religion and sexuality. There's a fear of religion. So people think that, oh, because I'm a Christian, I cannot share about sex. Oh, because I am a Muslim, we can't talk about it. Unfortunately, that's not really what sex conversations, are about. Thank you, Sheke. He said Tuesday classes is a teaser. That's what it is. It's a teaser. It's not the process. You need to commit to a process. And if you're waiting to get into the inner circle, we have quite a number of parents who are waiting. Commit to these short courses and equip yourself while you're waiting, because this knowledge is so fluid. Even the parents who were in the inner circle last year will agree with me that this year is like an explosion totally. All right? You need to commit to it. Another reason is you're afraid. There's also social economic status. Now, it's been found, there's a research that says that self-esteem affects how, your sex conversation with your children. And it's so true. It's found that people who are who are not bold enough to have these conversations have higher tendencies. Their children getting pregnant, their children, taking wrong decisions, and all of that. All right. You are the curriculum. Thank you, Lim. You are the curriculum. All right. And then another thing is why you're afraid is ineffective communication. In our system today, there is no. We were not taught to communicate. We are not taught to communicate. So you have a problem with communication. You were taught, you were criticized, you were judged, you were programmed for criticism, for judgment. You were programmed for shame. So when you're having that conversation, you're going to have it from your program, except you rewire the brain. So many of us do not know how to effectively communicate. We were not taught to have conversations. So I say that sex conversation is a conversation. That's what it is. It is a conversation. And it's something that you need to make daily. You need to make it a daily conversation in your home. And there is a how. There is a way to make it a daily conversation in your home. There was a survey in Nigerian system where it was a survey among the teenagers. And many of them said, a particular child said, my parents do not have time to sit me down and discuss sex. So I learned it from my friends. Everything I know about sex, I learned it from my friends. And for those of us who are even broaching this conversation, we are broaching it the wrong way. We are threatening. When you say things like, if anybody touches your private parts, don't allow anybody to touch your private parts. It's bad. It's a sin. It's this one. It's the same way. The same thing that we were programmed to do. See how our parents taught All right. See how our parents taught us sex conversation. Our parents taught us sex conversation with, don't allow anybody touch you. If anybody touches you, you'll be pregnant. Now, we're no longer teaching that. But we're teaching, don't allow anybody touch your private part. If you do that, it's a sin, it's bad, it's this. We're having the same conversation with the fear factor and the shame factor. Do you know why? Because we're not learning. We're not unlearning what we've been taught. We're not unlearning what we've been taught. We are learning, we're doing the same thing our parents have done. We're just using different languages. You know why? Because we're going to parent automatically how you were parented, except you rewire what you know. Because it's not magic. That's the only parenting system you have ever seen. Were our parents wrong? No. They parented according to the knowledge that was available to them. And if you are doing the wrong things in these times, you have yourself to blame. Really. You have yourself, absolutely. Because there's knowledge out there for you to access. A school reached out to me and paid for all of their teachers and the proprietor to be part of Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. I was so impressed. Not just one school, many schools actually. We need to go beyond thinking that these conversations will fall on us. Today, I said to the parents in that event today that they need to understand that no matter how much you pray, knowledge will never follow you. Never. As knowledgeable as I am, I'm always ashamed to say that I didn't know anything. But you know what? I don't stop where my shame stops. I learn. The moment I realize that I don't know, I run for knowledge. It's going to cost me whatever it costs me, I run for it. I run for it. Last year, we did Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. The curriculum for this year is a totally different thing because knowledge is so different. This year, we've created what we call the 10 self. The 10 self system for sex conversations. And if you are not teaching this 10 self, then you're not having this conversation. You're not having it. So this conversation is this is a part of parenting. So just a tiny part. Parenting is huge, is vast. Like I said earlier, we're no longer begging you to come and learn. It has become compulsory for you to learn. It has become compulsory. I worked with the Lagos state government recently, and with the state government, and I proposed that they actually infuse parenting education. They're already working on it. The states that are standing up and infusing these things in their systems. You live in a country where these things are going to trickle down, after a very long time. Help yourself and help your children and the generations to come. If you're not learning, your children will die in darkness. And it's a terrible place. It's a terrible place to be. You want to stand up today, you want to begin to learn, because knowledge is a prerequisite for raising any child in the 21st century. If you don't know, you will drown. So you need to learn. So stand up to the occasion, rise up to the occasion. If you feel that, so the inner circle, someone is asking me about the inner circle. The inner circle program will cost you 55,000 naira in total to register for every year. Trust me, what you learn there is more than, when you go in after 1 week, you will tell me that your money has been completed. All right. But this amount, we're actually reviewing it after the conference. My team has been pushing to review it. And we've been waiting, okay? So that's for those of you who want to get into the academy. But what I say to you is, get into the Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro first. Come and even learn. Start from there. If you think that, I cannot, the good thing is that you can also pay in installment for the academy and join in, later on, and we're starting on the 1st of December. So you can pay installment until we start that conversation on the 1st of, December, that program. So there's really no excuse. If you do the maths, you do 4,000 naira, about 4,000 naira every month. And that's less than money for shawarma, data, whatever. So these things are choices, really. They are choices. I'm not speaking to parents who can afford it. I'm speaking to parents who can't. So it's just a matter of our value system. And now we're offering you a course that we normally would charge you for 15,000 for 2,000 naira. Some parents are still saying, oh, should we not? What are they going to teach us there? What do they know and all of that? Your children suffer for your ignorance. All right? Your children suffer for your ignorance, unfortunately. Because while you are arguing whether you should learn or not, your children are just moving. I was telling a story in my book, Connect to Correct. I've written, quite a number of them. And I was sharing how I learned about suicide games from my 7-year-old. From my 7-year-old. Suicide games. I didn't know what it was. That was 5 years ago. And my son was the one who tutored me on suicide games. These are the conversations. The more you don't learn, the more your children suffer for your ignorance. I do not think, again, that anybody listening to me that 2,000 naira is a big deal for them. You're paying for extreme value. That's the word. And wherever it is that you are in the world, you can pay using our seller link. And, you can find it on our YouTube description or even the description of this video, wherever you're watching me. If you want to be part of this conversation, just put sex challenge. Just put challenge. Put challenge in the comment section if you're watching anywhere that is not on YouTube, because on YouTube you already have all of the details, and on the description you have the link. It takes you straight to actually go and get this information. I'm going to wait in case if I have questions, and we would answer your question before we begin to round off. All right. But most importantly, you need to remember that parenting is not about tips and hacks. Parenting is about the process. It's not about, what I heard here, what I now, merge it together. No. There's a process to it. People tell you, there's no manual to parenting. People don't like to hear it. There's a manual. There's a manual. The structure you create is your manual. What you know is your manual. All right? What you know is your manual. That's the truth. So if you don't know what you know, that's your manual. So all this, there's no manual to parenting. The parenting does not have a manual, blah, 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 and all of that. Forget it. We know that there's a structure, and that's your manual. So your manual will be dependent on what knowledge you have. So parenting really actually got manual. But the question will be, what manual are you creating? And that manual are you creating? Is there an accountability process to hold you to making sure that you are implementing that manual? That's what parenting academies are for today. That's what they are for. Where they are holding you accountable to a system that you create. They equip you with what you need to know, give you a system to create. That's exactly what it is. All right? That what we're doing with the Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. So on the subject of sex conversation, I'm going to give you a manual. So there is a manual. There is a manual. It is what you know. That's what your manual is. Ocha says, is there any discount for inner cycle? None. There's an increment coming. If you do not book a slot, for you to book a slot, you can book a slot with 5,000 naira at the moment. If you're not able to, and we finish the conference, you will pay much more. I can assure you. And we'll be glad, very glad to collect much more, because it's a lot of work. My team and I work our asses off to make sure that the inner circle is where it is. And it's the best, it's the Harvard of parenting. Ask anybody. All right? It is the Harvard of parenting. So yes, what you know is your parenting manual. What structures you create is your parenting manual. So there is a manual. So when you make noise and just come, from all of these, places and say, there's no parenting manual, all these things that they're sharing, what you know is your manual. Our time zones are different. NECA, we always have replays. So if you are going to be in the Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, there are replays. All right? There are 5 modules. The 5 modules, 4 modules or so, 5 modules. And all of these modules will be streamed live 1 hour every day, 60 minutes. And you will have access to this as long as, the year runs. All right? So you have access to it. So it's not like, you missed the class, you cannot be there and all of that. No, we recognize that we're speaking to a global, system. We have parents who are not Nigerians that we work with. We have Americans. In the inner circle, we have Americans. We have people who are from different parts of African countries. All right, I'm not talking about Nigerian Americans. We're talking about the white Americans. So we have people from all over the world, all over. So we access, that's why we run an online parenting academy, so that we can access everybody. Okay. So, and the sex educate your child like a post starts on the 11th of July. If you make, all right, a payment, all right, today you get access to that guide, that manual that I'm telling you about. I told you that parenting have got a manual. And people are creating their manual on a daily basis. Ask the parents in the inner circle, they have manuals. They have a structure on sex conversation. Sex conversation must be structured, because you must teach the things that are relevant. They must be structured. You must have resources. A lot of us don't even know where to get the resources. People will say, oh, when you Google online, all of that, and then you Google and gather it, and then what? And by the way, what we teach, it's not what you are finding on Google. Somebody was asking me, so what do you mean by the 10 self-models of sex conversation? I tried to search it on Google, I didn't say it. I told the person that my brain isn't on Google. And that's the truth. All right, so if you want to be here, so the structure you create is your parenting manual. And that structure will need to be created from a place of value, from a place of knowledge. Let me also say this. I know that many of us that are listening to me, you will say, oh, will you love my child more than I do? I love my child. Love is not enough. You can love your child and destroy them. Today, while at that meeting, David's mom said to me, I love my son so much, but I couldn't help. You can love your child, lack the knowledge, and your child will perish right in front of you. Right in front of you. I don't think we understand what it means to do drugs for 7 years and live in the bunks. I don't think many of us have ever seen a bunk before. If you do, you will be scared enough. I am. Right? I am. So Neka Moka, if you're is on Facebook, all right, somebody's going to respond to you with the link that you will need to pay, where. So you just make payment using the link, and it sends you directly to the WhatsApp group. We currently have 1,300 parents, and the WhatsApp group is just a holding group. We don't run WhatsApp groups, all right? Is a place where we're going to send information for you and all of that. The class is going to be live. We don't do conversations on chat. It won't even work. Okay. So if you want to join a system, if you want to join the academy, okay, if you want to join the academy, you can go and be on the wait list. And let me also say this. We're already 50% fully booked for 2023. The moment that slots are gone, we can't take everybody. We're already over 1,000 people in the academy. The moment those slots are gone, we shut down, and then you wait for 2024. All right, wait for 24. Okay. And I'm in. I was there last year. I didn't regret it. I will not forgive myself if I miss this. No. You can't. You won't. You need to be there. The Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro this time is coming like with fire. Name it. All sorts of fire. All right. So remember, love is not enough. Intentions are not enough. You can be intentional. You can have all the good intentions. And anytime I share this, I say our parents had good intentions, but they couldn't deliver, because they didn't have the knowledge to back up their good intentions. So with your intentions, with your love, I need you to also back it up with knowledge. Mojishola, if you are sending challenge on YouTube, just look at the screen, screenshot it, and take the details from the screen. All right? Screenshot it and get the details on the screen. And if you want to pay via link you're watching me on YouTube, we're also going to send it on our Telegram platform in case that's where you're connected from. And you can just simply click on that link, and it takes you straight to make payment. It's a seamless process. It takes you straight into the WhatsApp forum, and you will get all of the information that is required for you to get. All right? How much you register for the inner circle? You book a slot with 5,000 naira. Total fee is 50,000 naira. That fee is going to be reviewed after the 30th of July, which is the end of the conference for this year. As soon as that conference is over, we will hike our fees. And even with a double of that fee, we will have more numbers, I can assure you. All right, we have done a double of increment, and we've doubled our numbers before. So what we share, like I said, the inner circle is the Harvard of parenting. That's what we call it, the Harvard part of parenting. The curriculum for Harvard is not on anywhere on Google. That's what the inner circle is like. You don't find it anywhere. Somebody said, oh, will you share what it is that you're learning? I said, don't worry. Keep your expectations. We are the expectation. Keep your expectation. When you're coming for sex educate your child like a pro, forget what you think you know. You will hear things that will blow your mind. I can assure you. All right. We prepare for this on an annual basis, and it's once a year. That's when it runs. And for every year, it's been a hit back to back. Yes, last year we had almost 3,000 parents in this challenge. All right. We're hoping that you're going to also share with your family and friends and let them come and learn. There's a lot to learn. Parenting is a big deal. All right, share with me. We're almost rounding off. It's just 4 minutes to go. Share with me what was your favorite quote today. And if this was valuable to you, this was worth your time, let me see you. Share your favorite emojis and share the best quote you learned today. Remember that parenting got a manual. What you know is what your manual is. So there is a manual to parenting. There are structures to build to parenting. But the question will be, how is your own manual? So whether intentionally or unintentionally, you are parenting with a manual. Is it that you're borrowing a manual from your parent, which is probably, not working, or you are creating a new manual, from based on whatever it is that you know, all right? It's very, very important. And when you sit down and say, why do I need to learn about parenting? It's no longer a conversation to argue or ask. It has become a expedient. Every parent should be in a system that holds them accountable. It's no longer something that you debate. It's become compulsory. A few years ago, we were talking to our foster daughter who was getting married. And we were talking about, creating a system of intentional process of going through marriage classes. We do that, my husband and I. All right. And while we were having that conversation, my husband said, just imagine how, a system has been created to follow that's going to help these young people just to learn. An intentional system. If you don't create an intentional system to this, and a system that holds accountable, we've taught marriage in a wrong way for a long time. We've taught parenting in a wrong way for a long time. You need to begin to learn properly. What I know is my manual. Thank you. The next best thing to get is to get knowledge. I can see all of the amazing quotes, and I can see all of the. If you're making payments, I can see quite a number of people saying they're making payment. The team will attend to you, all right? That's nothing to do with me. The team will attend to you, okay? And they would, get you sorted out if you are doing a manual payment. What you know is your parenting manual. The question will be, what manual are you parenting with? I think that's a question every single one of us should ask ourselves today. What manual am I parenting with? The manual that of what I know that is going to help me, or the one that's not going to help me. Love is not enough. Intentions are not enough. You can love your child and destroy him. To your love and intentions, you must add knowledge. Best quote, in the school of sex education, the curriculum is you. Thank you so much. Tony said, if you know better, you will do better. Thank you. Bless said, love is not enough. Conversation should be done honestly. Florence said, there is a manual for parenting. Oh, there is a manual for parenting. If your kids think you are not trustworthy, they will come to you again for deep conversations. Thank you. What manual am I parenting from? I haven't gotten this level of value in a long time. Oh, wow. And you are even in for a shocker when you get into the, our online courses. You will be shocked at how much you will learn. Parenting is a process. You must commit to it. It's a process. It's not about tips and hacks. What I know is my manual. Thank you, Coach. Thank you so much. This is where I call it a day. This is where I call it a day. Don't forget, parenting has a manual. Don't be fooled when they tell you that there's no manual. You are the one that will determine what kind of manual you are going to be parenting with. What you know is your manual. Your manual is from the knowledge bank that you have. Thank you so much. See you at Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. Remember, the more parents you send this to, the more we will be able to actually have a say in our word. Thank you for joining me again at the Cathedral. We call the Tuesday sessions the Cathedral. Call 2 p.m. every Tuesday. I am your lead coach at the Intentional Parent Academy. And my name is Wendy Ologi. Thank you. And if you want to get our books, wherever it is that you are, correct? These are all, books, different places. You can get them on Amazon. You can buy them anywhere. You need knowledge. You need knowledge. If you need to borrow to gain knowledge, do that. Trust me, it will pay you. Thank you, and do have an amazing day.